Hi, Nick Collier here. We're going to prepare here to do another jewelry project here.
And we'll just put the piece of copper in the shear and go ahead and rough out a piece here just to keep everything nice and square.
And you can see the copper disc is roughed out. Now we have to come back in and do the fine cutting. Let's go ahead and do the same thing in gold because we want to make this a gold pendant with a copper backing. We've got the two discs. So now what I want to do is cut a design.
What I really need to do is to create a hole inside of this design. Put the punch in there, and then I'm going to whack this baby, and hopefully we can do it while we're filming. And there's our piece. Hole out of that, and then I think what I'm going to do is bring a piece of silver in behind it, and the silver will show through, and then we'll do some sort of work with the silver. So it'll be a gold, copper, and silver piece. All right, we whacked it, and the punch went through, and now the punch is going to go all the way through, and there's our piece. In the doming process, since this is copper, it's going to dome out pretty easily. So I can just take this piece and pretty much just slam it. And this is about what we're looking for. And you can see that copper is going to be a nice, let's bring it in a little closer.
In this case, we're going to put a silver backing behind it, but I don't know where that circle is going to be. So for the moment, we're just going to kind of rough out a circle. Tap it slowly, and we're starting to get a nice little dimple going. Now we're going to see if we can adapt the smaller dome or the less dome to the dimple so that it fits inside of the piece. And to do that, I think we're going to... It's a little banged up because we were beating on the other part of it, but we'll go back in and reshape that in a few minutes. At this point, because this is going to go in back and it's all going to get riveted in, we're going to have to do some antiquing into those lines, because if we don't, they're not going to show up that well. Now we'll just go in and sand this a little bit, and you'll see how the stippling just really begins to create contrast. We've sanded it with 400 sandpaper, and then we've also come back in with 1000 grit sandpaper, and now we're going to come in with a little semi-chrome polish, and that should just take us right to the finish. And we'll give it a little bit of a scrub there, and let's see what that looks like. Yeah, that's going to do just fine. Now that it's all ready to go, let's go ahead and glue it, because that's what we need to do in order to get the rivets to go in properly. So we'll just dab a couple of drops of glue in a couple of spots here and expect that one of them will take at some point. Over a little bit. You can see that design underneath. That really came out nice. We're going to go ahead and just drill through the first two layers into the silver layer, so we can get a hole back there too. There goes one. And these are going to drill out pretty easily because of course it is silver. Two. Just put a couple pieces of silver wire through and just crimp the end so that the wire wouldn't fall back out. And you can see that, that the piece is now pretty indexed. It's set up within, you know, a very, very thin margin of error, so I can go around and continue to cut down this rough edge. The half moon, remember the elongated half moon? So I just trimmed it back so that it's in basically the same shape that I want it to be. Okay, we've rolled it out a little further. As you can see, it's a bit longer, and then annealed it again. It's a bit thinner, but it's still nice and thick for a bail. So get our pliers and then roll the gold around the pliers.
So we're going to take the bale and taper it just to make it look a little better than what it's kind of blocky looking right now. We'll take that into the buffing room and put it on the grinder of the radius, and you can see how it's starting to get this nice little taper in it. Ground, and you can see this thing's going to fit right on top of there. We'll just do a little bit of messing around with it to give it a more rounded effect on the bottom there, and we'll have a nice bale.
Put the bale on just temporarily with a piece of silver pin, and you can see how the bale is going to rotate freely as we once we get everything all in place. I kind of like. So now it's pretty much time to take this thing apart and polish up the gold and do the texturing surface on the copper and maybe polish the silver. Just fun and yet very tedious process of heat treating this metal. And you come in with a very, very fine flame, very light, and you're just gonna really just barely heat up the surface. And in a sense, what we're doing here is we're bringing out the fire scale on the piece. And in copper, the fire scale has some beauty. Okay, we're just beginning to get some blues, maybe just a slight lavender on the right-hand side there. Now we want to let this thing cool, and we have to do this probably, 10-15 times in order to get it to come up to temperature properly. About at the 5th layer, and you can kind of see how the yellowing is starting to get just a little bit of purple tinge to it and a bit of blue. You can see it down below there, the yellow is getting much stronger. So we're going real slow. This is layer, I don't know, 6 or 7 now. And I love watching it change color as it cools. You can see that right-hand side, that little violet over there starting to get just a bit stronger. We've got a little bit of yellow on the left side. And that's, the temperature just coming up just slightly. Okay, now we're starting to get a little bit stronger color. There's some purple on the left-hand side there. In the texturing's starting to get just a little bit more violet as it starts to cool. This is what we're looking for. A little more color. This might be layer 10, maybe 11. And we're just getting past the yellow. A little more heat. We're up to layer maybe 12, 14. We're getting very close here. Each time the temperature goes up just slightly higher. All right, we're getting some nice color there. Most of it is in the yellows though. But we're about 15, 16 coats at this point. So I think it's time to go ahead and go in and do what I call a blast, and that is to just bring the torch in and hit it right in one spot real fast and see what happens. And sometimes the layering okay, now you can see we're real close, and I'm going to attempt to get this thing to color while you're watching. I just go in and hit it real fast and then see if the color changes. It looks like it was still kind of sitting there a little bit. Let's go in and hit this part here real fast. See that color change? So this is the last few minutes. Now we're probably at layer 30 because I've been taking my time with this. See how I just added a little bit of a tinge to it right there? Ooh, that one came out nice. Let's do a little bit right there. There it is. And if you stay too long, it just goes natural light, and you can really see the colors that came out of that copper. Yeah, that's going to look good. Now, of course, the entire perimeter
nobody sees it, so I didn't really care about that much. But in the stippling part itself.
Okay, we've taken the file to the piece and then came back in with the sanding board and cleaned up any file marks.
Oh, just assembled just temporarily, but you can see the colors of the peacocks, and you can see the gold polished, and
All the rivets are in place, the bail is in place, the piece is ready to go. Now what we're going to do right now is go ahead and trim the backs of the rivets. And one last little thing that needs to be done, and that is that the edge, now that the rivets are all locked into place and nothing's going anywhere, we need to bring that edge back into a consistency with each other. It's pretty well done here. There's really only one last thing to do, and that's inscribe my name on the back. And I like to do it as small as possible.
There we go, right on the bottom. Nick, 2011. So that being said, the piece is finished. We're ready to go ahead and start on another one here soon.